Hi, my name is Lilly, and I am one of the co-founders of Vtox. Right now, currently, I am an entrepreneur. I've invested in real estate, I invest in companies, and started this company, being an entrepreneur, probably right around COVID. It was in the year of COVID that we started Vtox. But before that, I was doing real estate. I have a degree in business management. Went into the flipping game. I've owned properties. So real estate investing is really my background. From there, doing e-com investing, obviously crypto, stocks, things like that. I learned to take the wins and the losses because you get both as an entrepreneur. They don't tell you the other side, but that's the truth. So that's what I do. I am an entrepreneur. Never thought I'd be. Didn't even know how to spell it when I started. My background. So I am the oldest girl, boy, girl, boy, girl. There's 4 of us. Oldest girl in my family. But I kind of grew up as the oldest. I didn't really grow up with my brother. My father died when I was 2. And mostly grew up with my grandmother raising me, right? And I'm giving this background because it's important, because the next thing that I'm going to say will shock most, but you have to understand where I came from to know how that happened. So when my father died, my grandmother raised us, and she raised a lot of her grandkids. So we grew up with a lot of cousins. I think in total, one time I counted, there was probably about 17 of us, young kids, all under the age of 10 at one point. And my grandmother took care of us all. So when my father died, my mom left us there for a couple of years, took off, did what she needed to do to heal and deal with that. So we grew up. I wouldn't say it was terrible. It was great. That's when you play outside and you have all your cousins to play with, so you always have your friends. We didn't know we were poor until later. But, you know, the signs were there, not having food sometimes in the house. Not even milk, or you literally open the refrigerator and there's like a bucket of lard in the refrigerator. Drinking water from the water hose and playing outside. It was great. The trees fed us. That's where we got our food. It was fun. But with that comes, as you get older, it's fun when you're young. As you get older, you need more guidance, more attending to. And so I also became a young mother. I was 12 years old when I got pregnant and had my first daughter. I had her a month after I turned 13. So I was 13 years old. I had my second daughter by the time I was 14. But still managed to finish high school. I was 9 months pregnant with my first son. 9 months pregnant, walking the line, receiving my diploma, because it was very important to me to show everybody who told me I wasn't going to be anything but barefoot and pregnant my whole life, that at least I got that. And oddly enough, the ones who would say that didn't even get their diploma, so yay, kudos to me. Did that, lived life, raised my kids, but then I realized when my daughter was 5, and she came to me and said, "Mom, I was telling my teacher how old you were." I was 18 at the time, and she couldn't believe me. She said it was impossible. And she was crying, and she felt humiliated because she was telling the truth, and she was told she was lying or not telling the truth. And I realized at that moment, it's easy to raise a baby because you just got to feed them, clothe them, give them a bottle or whatever, but it's hard to raise a child into a woman. And I myself at 18 didn't even know what that was. So I had to find out. And I had to find out quick. And I realized in that moment that I wasn't equipped to do that. So my go-to turn to was God. I learned about the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior. I completely engulfed myself into it, quit everything that you're supposed to, cussing, drinking, partying, all of that. And I became 100% Christian, 100% mom. And that was, I will say, the most pivotal point in my life. And I served for 20 years in the church. At the same time, continuing my education as time permitted. I wasn't in a hurry. I wasn't trying to prove anything to anybody with my degree but myself that I could do it. So it took me, I think, about 7 years total to get my business degree. And I didn't know what I was going to do with it. I just knew I enjoyed what I was learning. So that's kind of how I fell that way. But at the same time, along the way, I was working jobs, getting jobs that had to do with real estate. So I learned about lending. I learned about signing loan docs and paperwork and what it took to purchase a property. So by the time I was 24, I purchased my first property and became a homeowner. And that was right before the big fall, right? So I purchased the property, ended up getting divorced, and I had to sell it and realize, wow, I made a lot of money. I had no idea you could get this kind of money buying and selling a home. Bought another property, fixed it up. Now this is when the boom is going up. So I fixed up a condo, bought a condo, fixed it up, sold it, and made 90 grand. And I was like, whoa, this is easy. So I kept doing that, thinking I was doing something. I really didn't know what flipping was. I was just in that market. I just got lucky. Then the boom happened and lost everything. Lost everything. In losing everything at that point, I had remarried. We had 7 kids and financially devastated and had no idea where we were going to live once they took our house. And for the first time, I was scared. So we ended up renting, and we found a place suitable, but we were never, ever financially okay, and had to learn to be financially okay. And so remembered back how we were buying and selling houses, and it was making money, but we didn't really have a science to it. It just kind of happened because the market was that way. Took some courses on how to flip a home and made it a business. And so now the science was behind the know-how and created a business, and it was quite successful in a very short period of time. Along the way, doing other businesses, got my degree in business, so that's the direction the world was taking me, right? And did that. Vtox came when COVID hit. COVID hit, at that point, I was doing really well in wholesale. When COVID hit, nobody knew what was going to happen with the market. And it was very still soon from 2008 and what happened there. So a lot of investors pulled back. And immediately I knew I had to go in a different direction or a temporary direction or see what was going to happen. Never even thought of vaginal steaming, to be quite honest. What happened was during COVID, my daughter called me. She's been studying to be a doctor for a long time. And she never really told me that she's had this silent struggle. And she called me crying hysterically. And she's saying, Mom, look, I've been struggling with endometriosis. And she had given me the whole background. I didn't even know what endometriosis was and how painful it was for her, to the point where she required surgery. And she had surgery and didn't even tell me. And she described the surgery to me and what that involved. And she said it helped her for a little bit, but at this point, she's trying to study. Every time she gets her period, she freaks out because of the pain. And she just had an episode where she felt her knees buckled in pain on the floor. And as a mom, it's like, wow, what do I do? What can I do to help? And how bad that must have been, especially in her position. At this point, she's working around doctors. She's working in urgent cares and emergency rooms as a scribe. She's surrounded by care. She's studying to be a doctor, and she feels so desperate and hopeless, to the point where she tells me, I'm thinking of getting a hysterectomy. And I'm listening on the phone, and I'm thinking, no, you're not. You don't even have kids. You're 27 years old. Are you crazy? But then I thought of my own personal struggles. And so that takes me right back to, I'm living life, I'm doing all these things in life, but my son at this point is 18 years old, and since I had him, I was never the same. I had struggled with reoccurring yeast infections, heavy bleeding. I never really had cramps or pain, so I couldn't relate to that, but I had my own personal struggles. Going to the doctor every month, having a standing prescription for diflucan, which is great because it cures a yeast infection in a day, but it also harms your liver. So I had my own personal struggles, and so once I heard her and hung up, I thought I have to find something. What did women do? My question over in my head was, what did women do way back for yeast infections, for recurring vaginal bacteria, VB, endometriosis to prevent fibroids. What did they do? There had to have been something before medicine. So that was my question, and that's what I Googled, and that's what I researched, and I came across vaginal steaming. And dove into it. I went ahead and I purchased my own little setup, did some research, purchased my own little setup. I started vaginal steaming at home, and I have not had a recurring yeast infection since. I noticed my periods went from 7 days to about 3 to 4 days. My periods were lighter. It took me some time before I shared this with her because she's very particular about what she does or puts in her body, especially dealing with endometriosis. And I approached her with it, and I asked her if she's ever heard of it. She casually said, yeah, I kind of heard of it. And I said, look, I've been doing it for a few months, and this is what it's done. So I think you should try it. And she tried it, and her pain went away immediately. She hasn't had pain since. Her endometriosis is still there because it has to be consistent, and you have to target it, and you have to do it quite often to eventually get rid of it altogether, or fibroids. But immediately her pain went away, and that was the biggest thing. So went from that experience to every woman has to know about this, aha moment, decided to create the company. I approached Sonia, and she's a nurse, and I asked her if she's encountered any issues where women come back reoccurring with yeast infections, this, that, or the other. And she's like, yes, it happens all the time. Oh my God, it just happened today. And I said, well, I'm thinking of starting this company. What do you think? And immediately, I really kind of expect her to say no because she said no to every other idea. But immediately she's like, you know what, almost like a light bulb went off. Yeah, I think we could do it. I know we can. Let's do it. So that's how Vtox came to be.